Yeah, Monday. What's up, everybody? Monday morning. Welcome to today's edition of the Daily Market Commentary. I'm your host, Chuck Folkers. I hope everybody had a phenomenal weekend. We're about to do what we do, taking a look at our four major markets. If you guys are new to the channel, click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Do me a favor, at the very least, leave a like, hit a thumbs up icon. That makes a big difference. Let's go ahead and get rolling with the big picture. So starting first with the big picture, last week we talked about what happened in last week, and then our weekend preview. If you missed that, go take a look at our other videos on the channel. I put that up actually last night at about 6:30, so everybody get a chance to watch that. But we did our live trade room last night and didn't get to finish our futures markets for currencies, so we're going to review those today as well. But the S&P this morning. We had looked at this area here last night and talked about a potential for a breakout if we got quality basing inside this region. Note that we did not get the basing necessary to take advantage of a breakout, which is why the breakout didn't really go anywhere. Price popped above, but we didn't get really any strong movement out of there because I didn't get the basing that I'd like to see before the zone. We are getting a little bit of basing now, and we bounced back out of this area where old resistance acts as new support, and getting a little bit of a move away from there, up about 15 this morning. My gut tells me that we're probably going to come up and retest these highs sometime this week, especially after we're seeing the VIX sell off and we had a short-term VIX bottom. I'm going to put a 15-minute demand area right in here. It's not a great level, but it is a usable zone if price comes back to that region. I think you're better off on a breakout trade. Up above us is a supply level, but that supply level is confirmation, and we're basing in front of the level. So we know that basing in front of the level is typically going to be a kiss of death. So I'm going to I hate to remove it because it actually I still think that it's got some 2-to-1 legs in it off of here, but just be aware that there is a bit of basing. NASDAQ. Same thing in the NASDAQ. We popped above where we said, hey, listen, if you're interested in a breakout trade, you may have a little bit of a move up. And we did get a little move from there, not a big one. A little bit more concerned that we didn't get as big of a breakout as I thought we would to kind of retest some of those highs. I think that the chances of us retesting those all-time highs in the NASDAQ are pretty good. And so with that, looking for a bit of a pullback. I don't have a super clean one. We could see a little bit of a sell-off today in the NASDAQ more than in the S&P. Let's take a look at the Russell real quick to see what that tells me. The Russell, though, is continuing to move higher, which is pretty helpful. Potential breakout above here, above the Globex high for price to continue to go a bit higher. So, feeling a little bit better about the Russell, the S&P, and the NASDAQ in the bullish sense. Although if one comes back, the NASDAQ looks to be the one that sets up for it. But once again, we're back near the all-time high. Don't tug on Superman's cape. Don't spit into the wind, and don't short the all-time high. Crude oil. So crude oil has rallied back up. You note that we did turn this to a confirmation short just due to the basing we were getting here in front of the level and gave us no entry, poked right through it, which now sets us up for what is actually a pretty good supply level up here. Now, on our 4-hour chart, we're continuing to move down. And so let's, utilizing this 4-hour supply level, if you're into that position, you got 1, 2, 3, we're 4 candles in, a little bit of selling pressure. If you're not into that position and, if we start to get a little bit lower, you can allow it to kind of continue to run. You do have a little bit of a demand area down here that was formed in last night's Globex. However, if you want to take that demand area, it's got to be a confirmation. It was formed in a Globex and it's counter trend, right? So that means that it cannot be real. It can't be trusted. Can't be trusted. All right. And then last level here is gold. Gold, we're still looking at a breakout above this 1800 mark. Just kind of hovering around there. Not a whole lot other than that. Gold's been very sideways last week. And until we break above here, we're going to continue much of the same. So those are our 4 major markets that we look at each day. all in all, the markets gave us a pullback last week, but I think that could be a short-term bottom. And then the next move up would probably be just retesting those all-time highs and continuing on that move. Crude oil, on a bigger picture, looks like it's coming down, and we'll see what happens at this current supply level that we're sitting at the moment, and if that downward move does indeed continue. Let's go take a look at our currency markets, because we do take a look at our bonds and currencies in our live trade room. Yesterday, I ran out of time, and so I want to make sure that I at least touch on those today. So looking at the bonds, starting with the ZN, which is our 10-year note, really nice bounce off of this level from last week's live trade room. And so now what am I looking at? Well, I got to go to the 4-hour chart. Go into the 4-hour. I see that I've put in a little bit of weakness here. Haven't quite yet broken below this low to tell me that I should be looking for a short. But I've got a really nice area of demand a bit lower, as in down in here, which I think is ultimately my price target of where we would be going. So if we break below this region here, I think you have room to fall to the next area of demand. So look for basing right at this level, right? 1, 2, 3 touches, bit of basing. You might get a nice little move down. And then this actually is really clean on the 4-hour for a reversal trade back up. The ZB, which is our 30-year, we've got our supply level up above. We came close to it without getting in, which means it's got to shift to a confirmation entry. Let's move that over to a confirmation entry. As far as our demand levels below us, nothing over the top. Also still continuing the move higher. So I'm not going to add anything to the demand levels below us on here. We've got an area there, but we've touched it, and we're kind of just hovering right there in front of it without a big strong move away. Looking at the euro. So starting with the euro. Well, before I look at the euro, let's look at the dollar. Right? Let's look at our Dixie. And when I look at the dollar, I always turn on my extended trading hours. And I don't want to highlight them. But it's always under equities. Okay. So when I look at the dollar, this is my the Dixie, $DXY. Looking at this on a daily chart, we can see that the dollar has been rallying, right? Move up, pull back, move up, pull back, move up, pull back. We've moved up. We got above this high. We're in the midst of a small pullback, which would give us a rally in our currency markets. Question is do we think that this next, let me get rid of all these drawings. Question is, do we think that this next area of demand right here is going to hold? Because if this next area of demand holds while we're hitting areas of supply in our currencies, that's going to be a strong reversal point. So we are coming to a demand zone. On our 4-hour chart, that's a little bit of a prior area of resistance, right? Old resistance oftentimes will act as new support on the retest. So I think that this is a pretty logical place for a potential reversal to head back up in the dollar, which is going to be bearish for our other currencies. So let's start with the euro. And in the euro, we had a nice supply level here that got hit, and we moved away from there. That was a pretty clean trade. If I move this to the 1-hour time period, my next best area of supply is the origin of this strong move down, which is right up in here. As far as a 15-minute demand goes, I've got a couple of decent levels down here, but we traded up pretty much all night. going to put a little breakdown line here because there is a bit of a double bottoming pattern there, and a double bottoming pattern would bring us up to about this area from a measured movement standpoint. So I'm going to leave just this one in here that we have as a setup. Looking at the Canadian dollar, big rally up overnight in the Canadian dollar. Notice the level that I did identify in last night's session. We did basing in front of the level. So anybody who looks at that and you see basing in front of the level, that should tell you KOD, right? Kiss of death. We don't want to take an area where there's basing in front of the level. It's never a good idea. Not a good idea. So here's my closest area of demand. Here's my closest area of supply, and we are just kind of right in the middle. And so I wouldn't mess around. Don't diddle in the middle, as a dear friend of mine once said, and that'll keep you a bit safer. New Zealand dollar, we've got a breakdown trade below here. If price comes back to here, this is a phenomenal area for a breakdown. And then we have this little base drop right here for a potential reversal back up. If we do reverse back up into this area, let me make sure this is a little bit cleaner on the drawing mode here. 68791 by 688 6888. But once again, look for basing in front of the level. Any basing in front of the level is going to be the KOD. Make sure we can still get a 2-to-1 and that there's no basing inside that zone. Great British Pound, little bit of basing here, closer to the 2-to-1 mark. Remember, if we're to take this Great British Pound trade, the absolute tightest our stop could be would be up here, right? So a 1-to-1 reward to risk would be this distance. Well, notice that at the 1-to-1 reward to risk, that's where we start basing. So you can still take the trade if you want to, but just understand that you're looking at a lower probability of getting a 2-to-1 because you've got opposing zones heading into the level. And so while I identified the level to me right now doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. So those of you that got into the trade, if you're still in the trade, great, hold on to it. Feel free. It's up to you. But if you didn't get into it, don't jump into it now because you see this basing. And I think that's what happens with a lot of traders is that they see the level ahead of time and they don't factor in the basing in front of the level, and then it reduces their probability of success tremendously. Japanese yen. Man, there's a good level right here in the yen. But we came super close to it, moved away. And so I'm still going to leave it there as a potential reversal trade. But in reality, if we come up to there, I think that we've got to be very cognizant of this region here. And as a matter of fact, that actually sets up for a potential breakdown. But this is still a sideways price action anyway. And then the Aussie. So looking at the Australian dollar, man, that's a big sell-off. We did talk about a breakdown below this market. So those of you that were able to get that, this is really where these things make for really good swing trade candidates, as that's, traded down all week. And so now, looking at supply coming back up, I look at this area here as a confirmation short. Now, why confirmation? Chuck, that's a pretty strong move away. I see that that's a strong move down, and we're in the context of a downtrend because we've already been tested. You may say, well, Chuck, we didn't test that thing yet. Au contraire, mon frère. Look at this wick right here. This wick tells me that we got a drop, a base, a very nice drop, and then immediately was retested before a move away. So this level, while it's a nice level, is not what we would consider a fresh, untested zone. There is a testing of that area. I still think it's very valid, but based on our rules, I probably want to make it more of a confirmation entry. All right, so hopefully that helps everybody for today. If you guys have any questions, as always, make sure that you send us an email, support@tradersarmy.com. Until tomorrow, everybody, see ya. Hey, thanks for joining us. If you like what we do, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's the only way the computers know that you're actually alive and really care. And go to tradersarmy.com today to learn a bit more. And if you want to see some of our other videos, click here in the box.